Yesterday, Friday, there was a bombshell. The bombshell that Nigerian government officials have been trying to avoid since Senator Ted Cruz of the United States Senate decided to sponsor his bill that Nigeria should be sanctioned as a country of particular concern for the abuse of religious freedom. Nigerian government and government officials have been all over the country and all over the media trying to defend Nigeria. Among other things, they had said that the problems in Nigeria is not the problem of religion, but that of security challenges that, according to them, affect both Muslims and Christians. As a matter of fact, some of the government officials have gone to the extent of even saying that, in their opinion, more Muslims are being killed by terrorists in Nigeria than Christians. However, the bombshell came yesterday, Friday. President Donald J. Trump decided to declare Nigeria a country of particular interest for abusing religious freedom. Now, let's take a look at what the report that gave rise to this says. If you look at the report that we have on the screen, you will see the key findings that the United States Commission for International Religious Freedom in its 2025 report says about Nigeria. Among several other things, and I'll read just a few sentences from there. 2024 religious freedom conditions in Nigeria remain poor. Federal and state governments continue to tolerate attacks or fail to respond to violent actions by non-state actors who justify their violence on religious grounds. Of course, these actors include JAS, they also known as Boko Haram, the Islamic State for West African provinces, and bandit groups have also participated in these attacks against religious communities. And these violent groups have always come out to say that they are pursuing a religious agenda. The government, of course, wants to deny that the killings have anything to do with religion. But of course, the videos that the late leader of Boko Haram, Shekau, released when he started his activities clearly stated that the Boko Haram in particular, which now split into the ISWAP, had decided to make Nigeria an Islamic country and that it will continue to fight until every part of Nigeria becomes an Islamic country. And a few months down the line, the Boko Haram decided to attack Muslim groups and communities also. And in another video, leader of the Boko Haram, Shekau, justified the attacks on Muslim communities by saying that those Muslim communities who had not joined them to fight the Christians, to fight to make Nigeria an Islamic country. Again, back to the report, you will see in the report that the key findings that were reported by this commission includes the fact it listed, among other things. The key findings included several killings of pastors, several kidnapping of 160 mainly Christian children, and killing of 8 people in Niger State. According to the report, ISWAP assailants also reportedly executed 3 Christians and shared images of the execution on social media. In November, the Lacroix group assailants seeking to impose their interpretation of Sharia reportedly killed 15 people in Kebbi State. In May, bandits killed at least 49 people in Zamfara State, including a Muslim. In Niger State, suspected bandits killed 10 farmers, including Christians. And in August, bandits killed 70 Christians and kidnapped 20 students in separate attacks in Benue State. Now, if we fast forward to the second column, the report also said several state governments also enforced their own more stringent blasphemy laws to prosecute and imprison individuals perceived to have insulted religion, including Christians, Muslims, and humanists. At least 5 prisoners remain in state custody on blasphemy charges at the end of 2024, including Mubarak Bala, Yahaya Sharif Aminu, Ismail Sani Isa, Sheikh Abdul Jabbar Nasiru Kabara, and Abdulaziz Inyash. Authorities charged Bala, a humanist, for insulting the Prophet Muhammad in 2021. He was sentenced to 24 years imprisonment in 2022. Now, if you go further down, the report also spoke about Nigeria's indigenous religious communities in Muslim majority and Christian majority areas alike came under elevated harassment from state governments that sought to restrict public display of indigenous practices and rituals. In July, the Anambra state government demolished an indigenous shrine after the governor and Catholic bishops called on the state to eliminate and banish neo-paganism and the works of darkness and evil. Similarly, the House of Assembly in Ebonyi State banned certain behaviors such as spiritual cleansing by indigenous priests in Ize community. Elected representatives in both locales reportedly feared violence will result if such priests carried out their activities. So you can see that the report did not just talk about talk about Christians. It also spoke about Muslims and things that are happening also in non-majority Muslim states. Now, if you look at the screen, you also see the recommendations of the Commission to the US government. That is to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, or CPC, for engaging and tolerating systematic, ongoing, and egregious violations of religious freedom as defined by the International Religious Freedoms Act. Redesignate JAS, Boko Haram, and ISWAP as entities of particular concern, or EPCs, for engaging in systematic, ongoing, and egregious violations of religious freedom as defined by the Act. And of course, it also spoke about some things that should be done in Nigeria, including supporting groups that should fight for religious inclusion in all parts of the country. So what is surprising, and you wonder, why are Nigerian government officials so particular about the fact that United States has designated Nigeria a country of particular interest as it relates to religious rights, when it is obvious from everything that happens in Nigeria, including government activities in some states that have been mentioned, indicate very clearly that the right to religious freedom is under attack also in Nigeria. As at December 2023, several countries had been declared countries of particular concern. We had Myanmar or Burma, China, we have Cuba, Eritrea, Iran, North Korea, Nicaragua, Pakistan, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. Of course, these countries for several periods, some of them from 2021, have been declared countries of particular interest. And this declaration has spanned the two political parties in the US. Some of them were imposed by the Republican president, and the Democrats, when they were in office, also imposed this status on some of the countries. What then are the implications of a country being called a country of particular concern? The fear among Nigerians, and there are some people that came out to say that if a country is declared a country of particular concern, it will not have access to arms that Nigeria may need to fight these bandits or terrorists that are affecting different parts of the country. However, the fact of the matter is that the issues of country of particular concern is actually more nuanced, more complicated than just denial of the privilege of buying arms from the United States. This is because countries such as Saudi Arabia buys arms from the United States, even though it is listed as one of the countries that have that problem. One thing that is obvious, though, is the fact that once a country is designated a country of particular concern, there are some implications for that country. Of course, the US can oppose loans or financial assistance to those countries. The US would take serious diplomatic actions on countries that do those things. And of course, the US may also impose sanctions or continue existing ones, especially if they cite religious persecution. And of course, the possibility of suspension of foreign assistance is there. there's also the possibility of restrictions on sales of some things or some trade with the United States. But I think what most Nigerian government officials are afraid of is the denial of for officials who are responsible for these violations. And in this case, several of the state governors and members of the state houses of assemblies who pass the blasphemy laws may discover sooner than later that they may not be able to enter the United States or be able to do some things that they want to do, because sometimes the US sanctions may become particularized and may lead to sanctioning the properties or monies that some individuals who are complicit in this, including state governors who are sponsoring these blasphemy laws, may have their finances affected. And this may actually be the reason why there's so much outcry about Nigeria being declared a country of particular concern. But finally, let's address one issue that the government has said, and I think the government has not really addressed the issue, or the answers that government and its officials are giving may actually lend credence to the fear of Christians that they are being discriminated against, which is that government officials are coming out to say that there are more Muslims being killed than Christians in Nigeria. Now, let's look at it critically. In the first place, for a very long time now, a Nigerian census has not been done with the categorization of religion. There's no way for government and its officials to come out to say and claim that more Muslims have been killed, whereas government has not done any investigations. Government has not even listed the names of the areas and the localities that people are being killed. Government just on itself comes out, government officials, to claim that more Muslims are being killed than Christians. What does it mean? That in all the communities that people are being killed in Plateau, Nasarawa, Kaduna, Kebbi, Zamfara, and so forth, how has the government come out to distinguish between the number of people that are being killed? The only thing that is possible at the moment is the list that religious leaders, especially Christian religious leaders, give of their members or their churches that have been destroyed. And in most cases, this data is there available online. The churches have made available, conducted in some cases, have understood, and the number of churches that have been destroyed. And churches have registers of members. And when churches speak about members that are being killed, that list has the possibility, has the potential of being regarded as a legitimate list, because churches keep registers of members. Whereas government comes to make declarations when the government has not conducted census that takes into account religious affiliation. All the census that we've done the last 20 or 30 years does not record religion.